Revising your physical body using the power of revision. This is the revision series over the last few videos, and we've got a few more to do. I am sharing this incredibly powerful technique, the technique of revision. The purpose of doing that is so that you can fall in love with revision, really understand the power of it, and most importantly, how to apply it. In this video, I'm going to share a story that highlights the power of revision and how I have revised my physical body using revision. But in order to do that, I have to share a story that I am very uncomfortable sharing. But I'm going to share it because that's how committed I am. I'm already getting hot just talking about it. I'm going to put some air on. All right. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to share the story of how I revised my physical body using revision. And then I'm going to explain the technique, which I'm calling the step-by-step back technique, because this is a progressive revision technique when you're dealing with something such as the physical body, where there is evidence in reality of an unfavorable result. There is going to have to be a step-by-step back of your awareness in order to revise what you are experiencing in the physical body, because you can't escape the physical body. You're in the physical body. That's the home of I am. You are only able to experience your reality through the physical body. So there's no getting away from it. So when you are experiencing a result in the physical body that is unfavorable, it can take time and space. We are in the land of third dimension, so it can take time and space in order to see those results in your physical body, because there's no way for you to get away from it. You can't remove your awareness from the body. This video is a little different from the video I did a couple of years ago called Change Your Appearance. I'm not sure when it was, but anyway, I'll pop it up here. Have a look at that video as well. However, revising your physical body is a little different, because what we're doing here is we are revising a result in the body that has come from a negative assumption that we experienced in childhood that led to either injury or surgery or doing something to our body that we wish we hadn't have done, which can be very difficult because you then have to live with that every day. So let me just get straight into the story, and then I'm going to share the technique. For those of you who might be new here, my name is Hedley. I'm a Law of Assumption coach. If you'd like to know more about me or my offerings, please do check out the box below this video, which will have all of my links. And if I could ask you for a simple favor, if you are enjoying my videos and finding them helpful and useful, please do press that subscribe button. That would be very much appreciated. So as I said, this is super duper personal. I'm very uncomfortable sharing it, but that's how committed I am to revision. Let me give you the context to this story. A lot of times we experience results in our body is because of negative assumptions or stories that were given to us in our childhood. Somebody could have said something or done something to you that produced a belief, and because we're young at the time when it happens, it goes straight into the subconscious, and then we live with this belief of there being something wrong with our physical body. And then of course we battle with that throughout our lives, and often we can then go and take action in reality as adults to help compensate for that belief. And of course, if we are taking action in reality on negative assumptions, we are going to produce negative results, which is what happened to me. So when I was 8, I've spoken about this in another video, which I'll put up here if you want to have a listen. When I was 8, I experienced a trauma. I'm not going to go into it, but I won't say the word because I don't want to upset the algorithm, by my diving teacher when I was 8. Now, he did something and said something at the same time in relation to my breasts. Now, I'm 8 years old. I don't have breasts at this time. But the gist of it was that without a certain size of breasts, I would be nothing. My life would be meaningless and valueless, and you get the gist. It was a very negative story. That action and those words went straight into my subconscious, and I lived with those from then on. And that produced an obsession with my breasts that continued well into adulthood. I became very obsessed with the size of my breasts. You can see that this is going to be a very personal story. I'm already uncomfortable. But anyway, again, this is all because of my commitment to revision. And it is a success story. There is a happy ending to this. As I grew older, there's the possibility that I could go and get breast implants or do something to enhance the size of my breasts. Even though I wanted the results of that, I didn't want to take that action because it felt like it would be letting him win. Fast forward to my late 30s, and I am in the process of dealing with another trauma that happened later in life, which I spoke about in that video. And at that point, I had the thought that maybe he had been right, and that if I go and get bigger boobs, my life will be better. It's going to solve everything. I don't know law of assumption at this point, but my best friend was like, please don't do this. My mum was overseas. She's like, please don't do this. And then I went and saw a girl who had had her breast done by the same guy, and there was a mistake. And I still went to this doctor. Looking back, I can see that my reality was just going, no, 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 no. Everywhere I turned, I was getting no's, but I kept on overriding my reality because I didn't realize that that's what was happening at the time. But I keep going all the way through where I end up getting the surgery. And I wake up from the surgery and I now have these things on my chest. By the way, there's no judgment to anyone getting plastic surgery. Anything in reality is absolutely okay. It's the assumption that you're taking the action on that is what's critical. So I was obviously taking this action on a very negative assumption about my body, and we're going to get to the results that it produced. So I get the surgery, and the moment I wake up, not only is it the most intense pain I've ever experienced in my life, I know immediately that I have just made the biggest mistake. I get chills thinking about it because not only do I know that I've just made a mistake, but now it's done. I've got these things on my chest and I now have to live with them, even though I know with every cell of my being that that was not the answer that I was hoping it would be. So for the next 6 months, I attempt to do my best to kind of, all right, well, look, I've done it. Now I've got to live with it. So let's get on with it. And I try and be positive about this. And I try and look at the positives. The thing is that I've got these things on my chest that are just such evidence of how I've messed things up. Not only messed things up, but messed my body up because I've gone through serious surgery and now I have the evidence of my mistake that I have to live with every day. But I do my best over the next 6 months and it gets to the point where I'm like, this is wrong. I need to get these things out of me. So 6 months after getting breast implants, I go in and have the implants removed because I'm like, I got to get these things out of me. At this point, I've now been through 2 major surgeries on my breasts. I was so happy to get these things out of me. Again, nothing wrong with breast implants, but for me, that was just not the way for me to go. So I get them out, but the result of those 2 surgeries have left their mark on my breast. And I realized that, oh my gosh, now my reality is reflecting back the belief that I've held my whole life about my breasts. They are now imperfect. They now look wrong. Whereas before I realized, oh my gosh, they were actually pretty good. There was nothing wrong with them. But now I've been through 2 major surgeries and at the end of the second surgery, there was a deformity basically. And that was going to be permanent. So I was not only happy to have them out, but I was devastated that I had done this to myself. I had paid this money. This wasn't cheap, by the way. So I'm now having to live with those results, which was very, very upsetting, devastating. Fast forward, I come into law of assumption, and at first I skip over revision because I'm like, I am done with the past. I just want to move on from it. I want to forget it. I don't want to deal with it. But then I eventually turned my attention to revision, and that consciousness is the one and only reality. And reality is the reflection of consciousness. Now, my physical body is in reality. Therefore, it is a reflection of my consciousness. So I started to play around with this idea that I could revise these surgeries. And if I revise these surgeries, my body has to reflect those revised memories back to me. The first thing that I started to revise when I came into this was my breath, because at that time I was still dealing with discomfort, I was still dealing with numbness, I was of course dealing with the deformity, and I was very aware of my breaths every day because of the results of these surgeries. So I go to work on revising the surgeries. And not long after doing that, I had the idea that maybe I could get reconstructive surgery. So I then contacted a couple of reconstructive surgeons. And I went down to Sydney and I met with these surgeons. Keep in mind, I've already started the revision on the memories of the surgery. So now my reality is starting to reflect back, not necessarily in my body yet, but it is starting to reflect back in my reality. Because I went to one of these surgeons and she said to me, she goes, "Your breasts are beautiful. Don't do anything, don't touch them. You don't need reconstruction." And that was the first time that my reality started to reflect back the new story that I had been revising in my imagination using this technique. So while I wasn't yet seeing the results in my body, my reality was starting to reflect back that new story that my breasts were fine. There's nothing I need to do, just leave things as they are. So that's what I did. I did not go ahead with any reconstruction. And what I did instead was I continued on revision. And that is all I have done with this. Now, what I learned in those meetings with the reconstructive surgeons is that the surgeon had cut a muscle and there was no way to reattach. And that cutting of the muscle is what was causing the deformity. So I used to do a lot, and I still do a lot of yoga and Pilates. When I would do certain movements, it was very obvious to see because the muscle wasn't attached. So the breast had been removed from the muscle. So there was nothing kind of holding the two together, which was what was causing the very uncomfortable and kind of embarrassing results in reality, because you could really visibly see it. Now, the surgeon said, "This is permanent. There's nothing we can do to reattach the breast to the muscle. You're going to have to live with that." Going to the reconstructive surgeons was actually very helpful because it gave me more information, which helped me with my revisions, but it also reflected back my progress, which was don't touch your breasts, don't do anything to them. They are enough, they're lovely as they are, leave them alone. And that was just such a beautiful reflection that helped motivate me to continue working with this. I'm going to jump forward to the results today, and that's why I'm ready to share this video, is because today, my breasts, as a result of my revision, are 90% healed, maybe higher, to what they were prior to the surgery. Not only that, the muscle that was cut that caused the deformity does not show up in my reality anymore. So I actually don't see it. Not only that, tissue has been regenerated and they have returned to the shape. There's very little scarring. It's very much like it never happened. But the best part is I do not think about it. I'm not aware of it. It doesn't enter into my thought process. Sometimes there can still be discomfort. I will immediately go to the revised memory where I stood up in the surgery and I ripped the needles out from my arm and I was like, no, this is not right. I don't want to do this. And I walked out of the surgery in my gown. I got my clothes and I've created this whole story where I got up off the bed and I walked out and it never happened. So anytime I feel any kind of discomfort, there's a number of memories that I can remember, but that's the one I go to that reminds me that I didn't go ahead with it. Keep in mind, consciousness is the one and only reality. Reality is the reflection of consciousness. So whatever I'm doing in consciousness, my reality must match up with. Now, my reality is my body. My body follows consciousness. My body is my loyal and faithful servant. So as long as I'm continuing to revise this memory, I am seeing those results be reflected back. And that is why I'm so excited to share this and to share this technique, because no matter what somebody has done or said, or you have done or said to your body or about your body, it is not fixed. Even if your body is showing the evidence of that, your body still comes second to consciousness. If there was any injury, if there was any surgery, if there was any illness, if there was anything that was said or done or happened to your body that caused a result that you are now aware of on a daily basis, that is not fixed. And revision can help you and will help you revise those memories so that your body can start to catch up with a new state of consciousness and reflect it back. Now, to be fully transparent with this has not been overnight. I have been working diligently on this memory over the last few years. This has taken me years, but the result of that is that it is like those two major surgeries never happened. And my body and my breasts in particular are reflecting that back now. When I look in the mirror, I see my breasts prior to the surgery because there's no evidence of the surgery. If I want to see evidence, I can look for it. I can go looking for the scars. But of course, why would I bother doing that when I'm looking at creating these new memories and really embedding them? Now, as well as revising the surgery, I also revised what had happened with the diving teacher when I was 8. But I'm going to save that for the next video or in the next couple of videos when I talk about revising trauma. So now I want to take you through the actual technique that I used to recreate my body to reflect back successful results, and that you can as well as a result of this amazing technique. So I call this the step-by-step back technique because that's essentially what we are doing. We are working step-by-step backwards from the result in reality. Let me take you through the step-by-step. The way I started revising this is I started at the second surgery where I had the breast implants removed. The reason that I did that is the doctor who removed them, when he came and looked at my breasts after and saw the results of them, which was, worse than what they had been prior to getting the implants in, he laughed. He actually laughed, which is astounding in such a vulnerable state. What I did was I revised that memory, first of all, where I told him what to do and where he could go. And I was very explicit in my language. I did not hold back. Once I did that, I felt better about that. I then went back to the surgery where I had the implants done. And I went back to the moment where I was on the bed and they were putting the needle in. And I remember lying there and I took the needle out and I jumped up off the bed and I said, I don't want to do this. See you later. I'm out of here. And I ran out of the room. Then I took another step back to where I walked in the room and I saw the girl in the corner and I was like, who's this? And upon seeing the girl in the corner who wasn't supposed to be there, I went, you know what? This doesn't feel right. I'm not comfortable with this. And I took my stuff and I went out. I then took another step back to where I was in the preparation room prior to the surgery and he's doing all the drawings on me. And as he's doing the drawings on me, I'm like, you know what? I don't feel comfortable with this. And I went and got a washer and I washed all the texture off. I got my stuff. I said, I don't feel comfortable with this. I'm getting out of here. And I walked out. And then I took another step back to where I was in his consulting room where he was going through the procedure and he was looking at my breasts. And I said, you know what? I'm not comfortable with this. I'm getting out of here. I got my stuff and I walked out of the consultation room and out of the building. I then took another step back to where I was in the waiting room and I was being kept waiting for an hour. And I thought, you know what? F this. I don't want to be waiting for this. You know what? I don't want to do this. And I got up, I got my stuff and I walked on out. And then I took another step back to where I was outside his office and I was about to walk in and I opened the door and I looked in and I went, you know what? This doesn't feel right for me. I don't want to do this. I closed the door and I just kept walking. And then I took another step back to where I was walking down the street and I looked up at the building and I went, you know what? I don't want to do this. And I didn't even open the door and I just kept on walking. And then I took another step back to where I was walking down the street to meet my friend for a drink and I walked past the surgery and it didn't even register because I was on a different mission to meet my friend for a drink. So that's essentially the process. I took step back by step back by step back and I revised each step of the way, all the way back to where I could create an entirely new event that had nothing to do with that. And that was so helpful in this process because I was able to revise each of the points where I had overridden my reality that was giving me an out. And rather than listening to my reality, I just bulldozed through it and went ahead. So I was able to go back and do things the way I wish I had have done and that my reality was offering for me to do it. Your reality is so generous. Your reality will give you so many opportunities for you to do things differently. And this technique enables you to go back and to do each of those steps differently. Now, what I did was I kept replaying those step-by-step back memories to where I just walked by and I met my friend, and then I'm having a beautiful lunch with my friend. And that then became the kind of memory that I was left with, that I can fall back on by going step by step back through those series of events. My brain is now on the path that I never went ahead with it, because I've got so many memories where I said no and I got up and I walked out of there. Now that's all I've done. I've done nothing else other than play those scenes back. Now, yes, I have done them regularly over a long period of time, but if that's what it takes to get my breaths back, that's what I'll do. That's what I have done, and that has been the result. My breaths are now 90%, maybe even more, of what they were prior to that surgery. You're just going to have to take my word for it. I'm not going to show you my boobs. But I am very happy, and I can now finally sit here and share this story from a place of integrity, knowing that the results are what I have been wanting them to be. They are not 100%, but they're very close, and I'm going to continue until they are 100%. So I'm not done with this. I continue to remember my revised memories every now and then, and whenever I feel discomfort, I will remember the revised memories. And because I have so many of them, there's plenty to choose from that tell me that never happened. My body can then show up and reflect back to me, which is that I went and had a lovely lunch with my friend, which amazingly is what I now have to go and do. And it is actually the friend that I have in my revised vision that I'm now going to meet for lunch right now. It's her birthday, and we are going to go and celebrate her birthday. So I'm going to go and do that. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about how to revise trauma, which is what causes so much of the results in reality that we don't want to experience. And that's why I wanted to do this revision series, because trauma is a state of consciousness that kind of locks into freeze frame and can cause havoc on our realities, and it doesn't have to. Revision is by far one of the most powerful techniques in being the infinite commander of your life. You are not bound to a reality that is unfavorable, that may be causing suffering. You are not bound to it. You are not bound to mistakes that you may have made. You are not bound to accidents. You are not bound to the results that you are currently experiencing in your physical body if they are not to your favor, if they are not to your liking. Your body is unfixed, and it can be fixed into a new reality based on what you're doing with consciousness. So have a go with this technique if this is something that is relevant to you. And I will be following this up with another video on how I actually revised the event that led to this whole schmozzle in the first place. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for investing your time here. I really appreciate it. Please give Revision a chance if you haven't already. It will change your life as it has mine, and it will also change your body as it has mine as well. Thank you so much. Sending you much love. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.